So I recently make some videos with thumbnails such as this one, and this one. With moments in the video such as, can't hold it? It's really just up, and there's your capitulation. And also, what exactly got the capitulation of late 2018? Ta-da! And then right after those videos, price goes and does something like this. Ta-da! And then naturally, I start getting comments such as, boom, boom, ba 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 boom, boom, capitulation 41K, boom, ba ba. And also, what happened to the dip? No accountability, weirdo. And also, ta-da, 41K. I made that music just for you, bro. And also, daily change outlook. Stop making weird guesses. And a response from another person, every day it changes. And then my favorite, I got a flood of those types of comments right after price went up, and I thought to myself, okay, let's try to challenge myself to see what type of point they actually have. And before I did so, I decided to take some data. So I ran a poll on Twitter, and here are the results. And as you can see here, I defined the 3 different items that the video covered. And just to make sure that my Twitter followers are not favorably biased towards me, I went ahead and did the same poll on YouTube, and over here are the results of that. So it seemed to me that the vast majority of folks understood not only the intent, but the message and how specifically it was delivered. But here's the thing though. You remember when I make an analysis and I say to my folks, hey, 70% chance of this direction in my opinion, but 30% is a huge percentage, right? I always warn people, you need to be defensive if the other type of directional move is a strong 30%. And given that roughly 30% of the folks, maybe even 35, let's say a third of folks thought that my videos were not preparing them for a potential move up. And all of that, despite that same video that mentioned capitulation, said things such as, because it's using this as support right now, this channel. Therefore, I think it's more probable it will cycle through that one more time. And now I'm actually kind of short-term time frame bullish. I am. So what the hell's going on here? I've put a lot of time and effort thinking into this, not only what the issue is, but how to portray that so I can clear up not only confusion on the part of the 1/3, but also to improve myself on how I communicate these things. Because a third of the people watching my video being confused, I don't like that number. I want to reduce that. So because I've challenged myself sincerely to see what your point of view is, and you're going to see my research on that. I dissected that video minute by minute and I've categorized it. I challenged myself to say, okay, how is this confusing? And honestly, I think you do have a point. So we're going to go over that. And because I've done my part to sincerely try to see what you all were saying, I challenge you in turn to see what also I'm saying in this video. And then hopefully my videos in the near future won't be so damn confusing. As we pull up my dissection of the video, which I've left pinned to the comment section so you can follow along with me, let's remember what my 3 intents of the video were, and I'll bring back up the poll from Twitter. So number 1, I wanted to let everybody know that capitulation signs are here right now in general. Number 2, a dump could happen at any time. And number 3, I'm short-term bullish. And I'm specifically, as you saw me lift that arrow up, I think the next move, remember in the video I said I think the next move will come up to here, and I said I'm short-term time frame bullish very specifically. My 3rd intent was to let people know I'm short-term time frame bullish. And now what I'm going to show you is I'm going to go to that YouTube video with dissected parts to show you why, justifiably, I don't think I did a good job conveying those elements. So look here right above me, and again, this is pinned to that comment, the one that says the thumbnail about to crash. I start off the video with essentially a call to urgency and almost like a scare tactic, and I understand how that could be interpreted as everything's bearish right now. I did not specifically define the time frame. Okay, I did not define the time frame, and I started off the whole video with the sense of, oh shit, red candles. Okay, I see that point of view. The next segment, I was overall bearish, but I expressed the potential for a bullish move without defining the timeframes once again. However, I mentioned I'm going to show you how price moves so you can, and I verbatim, so you can be on your toes to be bullish. So once again, I did not define the timeframes in the difference between bearish and bullish. And to be honest, I can totally see why that could be confusing, especially if I'm flipping around the timeframes without letting you know, hey, I'm on the week right now, hey, I'm on the hourly right now. In the next video segment for about 4.5, 5 minutes here, I was bearish and I specifically discussed and defined the weekly and monthly EMA crosses. So in that segment of the video, I did define midterm timeframes specifically, midterm timeframe bearishness, but only after talking about bearish and bearish without any defined time frames. So it took me a whole 90 seconds into the video to start talking about which time frame I was talking about. In the next little segment here for about 1 minute and 15 seconds, I was exceptionally bearish, suggesting that price could fall at any time. And once again, I failed to identify the time frame because when I went back and I tried to view it as if I were a new viewer and I'm not myself, I think that I could easily interpret my meaning of that to be short-term bearish, although I wanted to convey being short-term bullish, which was one of my intents. But this video segment right here, something I said, I think I said the word kablam, it could go kablam. Well, I totally get that. That sounds short-term bearish. It could go kablam at any moment. That's short-term bearish. The next 1 minute segment was short-term neutral with my words, and I mentioned short-term price pads for both directions so people could understand roughly my expectations of how price would move, if price would go up or if price would go down. So that's fairly neutral. I think that part was clear. The next little segment of 15 minutes, this is one of the snippets that I was very specific about being short-term bullish. So I defined the time frame and I defined as bullish within that time frame, but look how far into the video that is. So I probably should have been defining that earlier on in the video. I mean, this is like the video is almost done. And then another 15-minute segment just after that, my intent was to say, after I am bullish, you need to be cautious and defensive because there is a risk for short-term bearish. So because up here, I had been wishy-washy with not defining my time frames, this down here, even though I was specifically short-term bullish, when I mentioned being cautious and defensive, I understand how that could be interpreted as, hey, you're now going back to short-term bearish. Although the intent was be cautious of being short-term bullish, but I kind of muffed that up by not being clear up here. And in the last two sections of the videos here, near the end, I was finally specific with exactly what I was saying. I was verbatim short-term bullish and verbatim midterm bearish at the very, very end of the video. So the jury is in. I completely understand how I could communicate that better. At the beginning of the video, I should have absolutely defined. In the short term, I think price has a better probability of going up. In the midterm, I am very bearish. In the long term, let's define that as from now till Christmas of 2022, I am neutral. Those would have been things I say, but I did not say them. Now I'm going to pull up a chart to try to show folks, okay, when I'm on a weekly chart with a weekly cross, and I'm showing you that signs are happening now of capitulation, that justifiably, from a viewer perspective, should not be interpreted as a short-term signal. And hopefully on the viewer part, you can make that connection yourself. But on my part, I will try to do a better specifying that whenever I'm on the weekly time frame. For a specific example, this is the weekly 10, the red, the blue is the weekly 55. I specifically discussed those weekly EMAs and that this cross down is pressure down and it's very bad, and that this purple line down here, the weekly 89, is being used as support. And what I did was I put on hourly candles while leaving these large EMAs on, and so I was mixing time frames, but I do that to the benefit of the viewer so you can see the chaos within the candles. And this cross does not mean the 1 hour candles are going to go down. And in the future, I will try to do a better job being very specific about that. So how can somebody in general be extremely bearish midterm like I am, but fairly bullish in the short term? And what specifically would that look like in the charts? Let me show you an example. This fractal right here, had I had that position, would have served me extremely well, leading up to a possible capitulation event. Being short-term bullish, which means the more immediate path of price. If I am simultaneously short-term bullish, but midterm, so longer time frame bearish, that means on a personal basis, I will be selling hard into that rally, which means I will pick certain price points to start holding more and more tether in anticipation of a downside event. And for folks newer to crypto, somebody can indeed be short-term bullish and midterm bearish. They can happen simultaneously and completely coexist. Don't simply have to pick a direction because, for example, as price is falling, it has corrections to the upside too. And there should be times that during an overall midterm time frame down move that you have expectations of a low to be made and a lower high to be made. And in that move, it's very tradable to the upside. And if you are expecting something to that effect, you would be short-term bullish with the expectations that after whatever move happens, it will continue making lower lows. in the video was about not only that specifically, but more importantly, which a point I probably overemphasized and I underdefined it, I didn't define it, is that when the next move to the downside happens, after my expected, very expected move up to 42 to 44K, more importantly, that the next move down could be a very strong one because of those signals on the weekly EMAs, which are midterm timeframes. And I think this is an important thing to distinguish, particularly for a content creator like myself, which I'll try to do a better job, but also for viewers to understand that when somebody's bullish, well, you have to know which time frame they're bullish on. Is it short-term bullish, mid-term bullish, or long-term bullish? And if that content creator isn't specific with it, then you can rag on that person, hey, you weren't clear about this. With that under our belts, facets of communication with the different time frames can possibly get even more confusing. So let me prepare you for that. Let's take a dive. Now let's say that I am midterm time frame bearish. And for example, a move of Bitcoin goes down to 29K and it's just not going down any farther. We're not getting the capitulation event. And Bitcoin seems to be making a low in that hypothetical scenario throughout the month of March or April. Still no super extraordinary signs of strength. In that case, I would reanalyze my bearishness on the midterm timeframes. I would continue to be bearish, but then I would start expressing conditions under which I become bullish. So it's almost like this arrow has a hat. I can have a red arrow with a green hat on top, indicating, hey, the green hat means the tides might be changing for this red arrow, but it's still a damn red arrow, and there is not definitive reason to be anything but midterm time frame bearish. However, there is a sign that this could change soon. And if a content creator is not careful in describing the difference between those two ideas on the midterm time frame, one could interpret, wait, he's bullish? Nope, he's bearish. He's bullish, he's bearish. And it's the same time frame, midterm time frame. Can you see how that can be tricky? You can be talking about the same time frame, bearish signs, but then also potential bullish things, and that could be interpreted as freaking confusing. And viewers have to know from a content creator perspective, it would be very laborious to go over those ideas explicitly every single video because the market is changing so much. However, having gone through this experience, I've come up with some ideas that I hope that once I implement them, that the viewers find very valuable, so I can better define I'm midterm time frame bearish, but the green hat's on top. There are signs of a potential reversal, although I'm still bearish. Now you're probably thinking, Tim, what about the analysis right now? Show us what you think if you're midterm time frame bearish and short-term time frame bullish. Where might this go? Let me give this a crack right now. Are you ready? I'm going to go to a low-term time frame chart, the 1 hour, and let's simply look at this structurally. I'm going to throw on a long-term time frame, monthly 10 EMA, and weekly 10 EMA. All right, those are long-term time frame bullish. So right now I am mixing time frames. I'll switch the monthly color to white to be less confusing. So the monthly 10 is white. Right now we are in a similar zone as Bitcoin found itself back here. Wicks above the white, we're wicking above the white, but we're specifically between the red and the white. So the weekly 10's below. Posted on Twitter, there are 3 overhead resistance, and I was posting that right about here, letting everybody know this rally has 3 overhead resistances. These are the 3 areas it's most likely to stop before a reasonable pullback. Does that mean before capitulation? No. I did a good job defining that specifically before a reasonable pullback. And the 3 resistances when price was back here were the weekly 10, the monthly 10, and this zone up here that I defined as being about 45,700. However, the top of this midpoint of control, and if I zoom out, the top, so this is the middle of the macro tilted range. The next immediate obstacle is the bottom of this, and that is heading at 45,800. However, price could easily, because of the momentum it already has, it could easily scream straight up to 47.9. It could tag 48K and really not change anything in this macro range sense because it won't change the outlook of the midterm bearishness until it goes above this zone. Let me take off the EMAs. Until it goes above this middle zone and uses it as support. However, once price gets into this zone is when I can take my midterm time frame bearishness and I could put that hat on it. I would say, hey, I am still midterm time frame bearish, but here is a condition. So I'll put the green hat on. If this happens, I will flip this to either a yellow arrow that's sideways, I'll be neutral, or to a green bullish midterm time frame outlook. But until the green hat happens, I am still bearish. Although this is a bullish condition I'm talking about, that does not mean that the arrow has changed colors. And And so here is what the green hat would mean. The green hat would be, once price is in here, I would start talking about the conditions, or this green hat, under which this arrow changes colors and directions. And that specific condition would be price gets both above this line and uses it as support. That's one condition under which this arrow would change colors. But because price is so close to that happening now, it is at least worth mentioning that possible bullish case the midterm timeframes, not to be confused with saying I am bullish midterm. Rather, I am prepared to flip bullish if something specific happens. That would be one condition under which I change the color of my midterm timeframe outlook. There could be two conditions for this green hat. The second one is, if price can come all the way up to 56K without using this as support, I would also flip this arrow to a different color and a different direction, either yellow and sideways or green to the upside. Right now, price is wicking above the monthly 10 at about 44,600. It could easily stop there. It's not quite in that tilted point of control that I just showed you. The bottom of that point of control is specifically around the 45,800 mark. That's where price is fairly likely to bump its head. However, since there's so much momentum, the top of that box is closer to 48K. Therefore, my analysis would be in the short-term timeframes. Price could easily turn around now, but because of the momentum, I think it's slightly more probable at this point. Okay, so my short-term time frame, I have permission as a content creator to be back and forth because it's called short-term for a reason. Your opinion on that should change in the short term. So hopefully from a viewership standpoint, that is accepted. And viewers, your short-term time frame outlook should change constantly and day by day as well, per that comment that I got, oh, it changes daily. Yeah, I probably need to do a better job being specific. My short-term outlook has changed, and I have total permission to do that because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Short-term, which directly implies it should change frequently. So my most probable right now would be, I think price could easily hit up and test roughly 46K, around the 45,800 level. That would be my most probable on when Bitcoin will get a pullback. My second most probable is honestly probably 48K at this point because of the momentum. It doesn't look like it's going to peter out right at the monthly 10 right now. There's too much momentum. My second most probable for price to go up to before a pullback would be a wick up close to 48K. My third most probable is that Bitcoin starts having trouble now because I'm recording this video right before the markets open. Traditional markets of the U.S. open around 9:30 a.m. in New York time. Things could drastically change around within an hour and a half or so, since I'm recording this at 8 a.m. New York time, this portion of the video, 8 a.m. New York time, when you just saw that chart. Things could change around, and my third most probable for Bitcoin would be it starts petering out more immediately, and the 44,600 level is as high as it'll go before a pullback. First most probable, a wick up to 46. Second most probable, wick up to 48. Third most probable, it starts petering out now. And in all three of those conditions, I want to be very specific. In the short term, I am still not bearish because I think with the momentum, wherever it starts petering out and losing momentum, it's going to dance around at that level. It's not going to go wick up to 48 and then crash, or it's not going to wick up to 46 and crash. Or if it gets stopped right now by the monthly 10, I don't think it'll crash either. All three of those most probable cases, I think price will chop around and go sideways within a 2 to 4% range without any serious downside move for the next couple days. Let me know in the comments below if my wrap-up analysis here was more specific and it was more easily understood. Hopefully I did a bit better of a job. Click this video right here if you want to learn how to set up a chart like mine and learn basic buying and selling strategies so you can do better in crypto if you're new within the space, and click this playlist right here if you're more intermediate and you want to understand a little bit better how and why price moves the way it does. Click the circle in the middle if you're new to my channel. You just got 𝐾𝐢𝐬𝐜𝐵. Peace.